Hey y'all. I want to start with that because I have found that I grew up in Greenville, South Carolina, and my southern accent comes out a lot when I'm either talking to my mother or public speaking, so I don't want you guys to be like, is that lady from Rhode Island or is she from South Carolina? Yes, to both of those. I'm so excited to be here today. I really love engaging with my friends at Smart Communications. It's always a pleasure. And the second they asked me to come, I was like, absolutely, of course. Okay, so the next era of customer engagement. This is me, let's just jump right in. I also know that I am the last thing standing between you and cocktails or paying your taxes. If you haven't paid your taxes yet, maybe you need a cocktail to help you. So, but I really appreciate you guys spending this time with me. But this is my agenda for today. The next era of customer engagement, the current state of customer communications, how that's evolving, how it's moving, those customer expectations, the trends that are shaping customer experience and CCM, thinking about modern CCM and the advantages that come with that, and then kind of bringing it back to why CCM is a strategic investment. Now, I say CCM on this slide a few times. To me, CCM, customer communication management, it is customer engagement. It is customer experience. It has evolved beyond traditional CCM. The very first CCM event I went to was in Anaheim, California in 2003. It was an Explore conference, and it was all about print and mail. The big thing that year was one-to-one marketing, variable data, people kind of dipping their toe into tying your print output directly into CRM applications. But since then, things have changed a lot. Not to quote my mother's favorite cigarette brand from the 70s, but you've come a long way, baby. So I just wanted to say this presentation is really for everybody in the room. CCM, customer communication, customer experience, it's inbound, it's outbound, it's extraction of data, it's storage, it's archiving, it's enterprise intelligence. So when I say CCM, I'm really talking about intelligent data collection, intelligent forms, signing workflows. I saw that OneSpan was out there as one of your sponsors, channel orchestration, the data archive and that retrieval. So I just know that a lot of you are dealing with large ecosystems, but I just kind of wanted to set that context early that this is for you guys. So the key themes that I want to focus on today, I love that I have this slide too, right after that panel, because so many of the words that they were saying, I was like, yes, I was right. These are the things that people care about. But there really is a fundamental shift in customer expectations and that demand for these dynamic conversations and experiences that are really happening across many different channels. And so I really want to focus on these key themes that you'll hear kind of these words over and over again in the next few minutes, but trust. Customers trust you with their data. They need to trust you with their experiences. They want clarity. They want safety. They want accuracy. They want information. And then your teams also need to trust the solutions that you are providing them with. They are accountable. They are responsible for your customers and for those experiences. Perception. Trust impacts brand perception. It impacts loyalty. It impacts customer acquisition. And it's 2026, yes, and customers really want a modern experience. They want it to be timely. They want it to be personalized. They want it to be transparent. Again, that clarity that comes with trust. And then all of the channels that you're meeting your customers in or at. No matter the channel, the communication has to be consistent. It needs to be personalized. It needs to be compliant, again, across all the channels that you're dealing with. And then because we're looking for a modern experience, you're having to coordinate all of these conversations as one journey, not just thinking about it as a set of disparate or disconnected messages. And then flexibility, that really is about your software investments that you're making, the solutions that you're investing in or building. You guys want flexibility, you need it. You want flexibility in how you deploy, how you're integrating, how you manage your customer communications, especially as you're modernizing. So you want flexibility, but you don't want to break anything because you have to stay compliant, you have to stay secure, and you have to stay trustworthy. So it's kind of iterative. It kind of all loops back together. So that to me is what modern CCM is. So at IDC, we do a lot of end user research. We spend a lot of times talking to the vendors, but we also spend a lot of times talking to tech buyers, and then we just deploy a lot of surveys so we can get a lot of great information at a high rate at scale. We do a lot of our survey work on a monthly basis. The reason is that technology is evolving so quickly, global political changes are happening, prices and things. So we're always kind of trying to understand what's happening with folks like you, the end users, the line of business, the people who are deploying these types of solutions. So a lot of the information I'm going to show you now is a survey that I run each year, really asking folks like you, what is the current state of CCM in your business? What are your challenges? What are you looking forward to in the future? What is your vision? And how technology is helping you see that vision. So from documents to experiences, CCM is customer experience. CCM is CX. It's customer engagement. CCM has really moved beyond static documents or outbound communication. It's not just bi-directional, it's very iterative. It's about the customer journey and all of the various digital formats that are out there, so many touch points. But at its core, CCM is information. I need information from you. I need to provide information back to the customer. It is compliance. You are required to do certain things when you're communicating with customers. It is personal. I am Amy. I want to know that you know me, my needs, what I want, and then what I need to give back to you. CCM is selling. It's about onboarding new customers. It's about offering them new products. It is about retaining customers. It is about expanding your base. It's about revenue. And then the CCM is your brand. It is kind of your face that you're putting out there into the world, how you're communicating and talking to people. So in light of all of that, CCM really needs to be accurate. It needs to be modern. It needs to be dynamic, frictionless. We heard that word a little bit. It needs to be an experience. And every experience is different. So when we ask folks, like, how is the volume of your technology-generated customer communication changing? Is it going up? Is it going down? It's going up. Scott, this is for you. It's going up, up, up. It's our moment. I told Scott I would do that, and I did it. I sang today. K-pop Demon Hunters, if you have a child, or you're an adult who loves it, yeah, it's all the rage. But the volume of customer communication is growing. So what you're putting out there and then what you're taking in, it's growing. But an increase in volume can mean more challenges for your organization. It doesn't come, without maybe some headaches or some headwinds. 53% of organizations struggle with the volume of content and data that they have. We are unlocking more of our unstructured data. We're trying to take advantage more of our enterprise data estate. I'm sure you've heard of the 3 volumes of data, the 3 V's of data: volume, velocity, variety. The sheer amount of data that you're taking in, the speed in which it's generated, ingested, processed, the variety, the different types of data that you have, the different formats that it exists in, structured, semi-structured, unstructured. And then after the 3 V's of big data, then came like the 3 D's: diversity, distribution, dynamic. But it is kind of a struggle for organizations. So if you are feeling that, you are not alone. And as you have this increase in volume, you're also struggling to modernize. There's IT complexities, technology limitations that come with legacy systems. And so when you're thinking about modernization in terms of data volume, number of integrations, all those complexities, it can really impact your ability to offer those real-time, omni-channel, data-driven experiences. And let's not forget that CCM impacts everyone across the business. There's many stakeholders across the enterprise. So you're not just dealing with diverse systems or applications, you're dealing with a lot of people and departments. There's different functions, different departments, each has their own applications and data processes. You know, what marketing is doing is different than what HR is doing. Customer support might be a little bit different than what, you know, finance and procurement is doing. But they're all a part of your CCM landscape. So they have their own applications and data processes. They probably have their own personalities and anxieties too. So that's something else that you kind of have to manage in this broader customer communication ecosystem. So it's time to evolve, or to kind of be back on theme, it's time to move. Traditional CCM approaches no longer meet expectations. It can fall short when it's document or very batch-centric, when it's optimized for static outputs like letters and statements. It will fall short if it's not dynamic, if it's not interactive, if it's not a two-way conversation across channels between you and your customer. And legacy CCM traditionally sits in, you know, IT, so they have like complex tooling, reliance on technical teams, and then that inhibits your business, line of business folks, your CX owners to iterate with content, to iterate with journeys, to think about having those personalized experiences. And they really can't adapt at the pace that customers want them to. So when we ask folks, like, what are the goals that you've changed or added in your strategy around communication over the past 18 months? Number one is boosting customer satisfaction, and number two is reducing costs. This is a survey question that I ask consistently every year, and reducing costs used to always be number one. But now that really it's still very important, but improving that customer satisfaction, improving that customer self-service, those have really leapt up in the past year of people kind of understanding how that communication is impacting the customer experience. Digital interactions, using data intelligence to drive those experiences, improving the contact center experience. So it's not just thinking about this is something that we have to do, we have to communicate with our customers, but thinking of it as an opportunity to improve your customer experience and your customer satisfaction. So another reason to move or evolve, your customer expectations are evolving. They're changing. And the reason why is that technology is changing, and that impacts what customers expect. So kind of coming back to some of the themes that I was talking about a few minutes ago, trust, brand experience, and consistency. This is what your customers want from you. They want clarity and accuracy above all else. And then thinking about accuracy, it's not just like when you're using like an AI tool and it's like, is this answer accurate or not accurate? It's not like a light goes on. You kind of have to know whether it is or not. But like accuracy can mean different things to different people. It could be about recency. It has to be in context. It has to kind of be like an understanding, reasoning of what they need. But clarity above all else, I would say, is key. And that is especially important when you're talking about financial services, insurance, healthcare. These are high stakes consequences and extreme sensitivity with your data. The customers really want to understand what happens next, because many times that is driving very personal, not always the greatest, important decisions in their lives. So trust is number one. And then that leads into brand experience. Customers, partners, they kind of want to be perceived. They want to be seen. As my kid always says, do you really see me? But that means that they want dependability, they want empathy, and they want transparency. Kind of goes back to the clarity. They want communication that is consistent. They want to not just have a reactive experience with you. They don't just want you to send them communication because you have to send it out, pushing it out on a schedule. Well-timed, proactive communication is a part of the modern experience. I recently had a tech buyer, someone like you, who had come into an organization with some legacy CCM, and she said, if we could just get rid of all of this and just start fresh, what should I be thinking about? And I was like, if you're not even thinking about, forget the technology part. It really is about the right message at the right time. Making sure that you have those personalized, proactive experiences that are intuitive and well-timed. And then consistency. CCM is omni-channel, multiple points of light, points of entry in real time. Any inconsistency, any delay, security gap, it's immediately visible and it's widely amplified. That can really erode trust. That can lead to complaints, that can lead to loss of customer. It's very costly. Consistency is what can really deepen trust. And again, this whole evolution is iterative. Trust, brand experience, consistency, back to trust. So customers, when do you hear the most from your customers? When they're like really happy or when they're not happy? And if you're like me, it's probably when you're not happy. You get complaints. So sometimes to find out what customers want, you have to listen to what they don't want. So we asked within this survey, what are the top complaints that you're getting regarding your customer communication? And so a lot of the complaints on this chart, and there's a lot of complaints that we gave people to choose from, but really a lot of them kind of point to like an orchestration and a data integration problem. Repeated requests for the same information, generic non-targeted communication, duplicate communication of the same information, failed communication, I didn't get what I was supposed to get. Chatbots aren't always helpful. They might not be that helpful because they don't have maybe like a great underlying search capability that's not up to that task, but sometimes they're just not dynamic. They don't know how to go on like a customer journey with you. They might not be integrated into the right knowledge base or the data set. Prompt engineering that you might have built isn't up to the task. Then some of the other top complaints I think really kind of come down to bottlenecks. There's like a lack of clarity, again, difficult to understand the next step. Bottlenecks, lack of clarity can kind of lead to, a fear within your customer, but then also it could be, I'm just gonna stop trying to onboard myself with this business. So there's like many, again, like there's a consequence to that, these bottlenecks that we create in our customer communication management. And then there's like design and translation problems. I can't understand this communication because it's not in my language. It might not be accessible. It might be poorly designed. Scott and I were talking earlier, and he was like, being ugly is a choice. And I was like, I feel that. Like, there's so many ways to have, well-designed types of output that you have out there. And I said, oh, you must have met my mortgage company, because they have the worst statements ever. But I'll never leave them because I locked in a very low rate, so they can do whatever they want. 2019, refi. Okay. So you get a lot of complaints because, again, you're managing all these different types of channels. That kind of that's a complexity problem, but the choices, the preferences of where your customers want to talk to you, it's also evolving. I mentioned the Explore conference that I went to over 20 years ago, and print was the #1 option. It was almost kind of like one of the few options that were available. But now it's the least preferred channel in which the customers want to engage with folks. And this question isn't like, how do you, the company, prefer to speak to your customers? This was, what channels do your customers prefer to speak to you in? And so digital channels rule now. There's a preference also like for in-person communication, like people with your frontline workers. So there's in-person, call center, live agents. These not always, like person-to-person communication is also something that people really value, which makes sure which means that you really need to make sure that your frontline workers, the people who are engaging directly with your customers, have access to the right kind of tools. So the omni-channel is real. There is a shift from batch to real-time communication, and so real-time in an omni-channel reality, that kind of adds another type of complexity for you guys. Business happens in real time. Latency stinks, like as a customer, we all kind of feel that. Delays in communication can create a bottleneck. A bottleneck has a revenue impact. Miscommunication has an impact. You might have the wrong email or a bad mobile number for your customer. You need to know about that. You need to address that kind of in real time, especially if you have compliance standards that you have to meet. CCM is also used to be very outbound focused, but it's not just outbound. It's not just one directional. Those experiences are coming in from all different directions, and your customers want control. They want to be able to manage their preferences and how they communicate with you. And your data needs to be integrated for real-time experiences. It needs to be able to be pulling from the right places, whether it is from your CRM or from an archive, kind of offering those self-service capabilities. But there's an impact also on your systems about maintaining compliance and accessibility across your many channels. Again, the right information at the right time. So thinking about the trends that are shaping engagement in CCM, we asked companies, what are your current challenges? And these are the top challenges that people report, and I'll kind of go in order here. But you guys are still probably navigating a lot of persistent challenges that are slowing down, your transformation initiatives, especially with customer communication. Technical debt and legacy applications, your CCM platforms have probably evolved from, patchwork, a lot of patchwork integrations over the years. You have core systems that maybe were built for print applications that really aren't up to the task to support a true omni-channel delivery. Upgrades are difficult, and then some of your IT teams are spending a lot more time maintaining old technology, and that keeps you from innovating and thinking about new experiences you can build for your customers. The internal and IT skills, they all kind of go together. You have folks that are having to deal with template design, data mapping, integration coding. This dependency can really stall projects. It keeps you from being kind of nimble and agile. And it also can limit how much business users are managing directly. Nobody knows these workflows better than the people in line of business who kind of want to deploy these experiences and capabilities. Then you have compliance and regulatory requirements. That adds another layer, a challenge for you guys. Some of your traditional systems might not be built to really handle these dynamic, complex, compliant workflows, and they might require some retrofitting. CCM doesn't operate in isolation. It's not like it's your single source of truth and it holds all of the data and content and documents that you need it to. It connects out to multiple systems, whether that's your ERP, your CRM, content management, your knowledge management solutions, your analytic systems. So it has to be able to integrate. So without a smooth integration strategy, your customer data will remain fragmented, and personalization and that real-time experience will suffer. Then you have the volume of data. We talked about that earlier. There's a lot that you guys are having to manage. End user adoption. You want to be able to have tools that are capable of kind of improving the employee experience. You want your employees to be successful also in kind of offering the customer experiences that your customers deserve. Cost is always going to be consideration. You have licensing fees. You might have some having to pay your SIs. There's lots of different ways that you kind of are spending money on solutions, and you might have multiple solutions that you're using. You might be thinking about consolidating to kind of bring costs down. And then, workflow bottlenecks. There's manual review. You might be managing a lot of different templates. You might have QA steps that are very time consuming. These all can slow down like your time to market or your time to communication. Every little bit of content change might require an IT intervention, approval change, everything can kind of bring things to a standstill. So really these challenges kind of highlight why modern CCM isn't really just about a technology upgrade, it is about a transformation of process, a transformation of skills, a transformation of culture within your organization. So the goal is to move from like legacy complexity to more like agile communication ecosystems that scale with your customer needs, not against them. So I am on slide, it says 96, but I think maybe like 18 or 19 for me. This is the first time I've mentioned AI in the whole process, so you're welcome. But the reality is that CCM can take advantage of AI and automation. And you probably have heard about like agentic AI. But to me, AI, machine learning, agentic AI, it is all in the flow of automation. It's kind of like the next phase of automation. And so there is a lot of hype, but there is a lot of practical implementation that's out there. And when we have surveyed folks, actually this past month, I just got back some great survey data. Like, who are you relying on most to deploy AI within your business processes? It was their technology partners, their application vendors was number one. They really kind of need someone to help them kind of understand what's possible, but in a way that's trusted. They can also tie those AI investments back to real business value. You don't want to be doing something in AI just to say, I'm doing something in AI. So 43% of companies tell IDC that applying AI to their data to automate, recommend workflow is a top priority for them when it comes to CCM. 45% of companies are willing to invest when building customized AI agents to automate business processes. Agents, to me, is just using natural language to allow automation to kind of reason and make business decisions, but agentic AI is here. Companies are still kind of trying to figure out ways that they can adopt it and use it, but it is something for you to maybe have a conversation with Smart Communications about kind of what is their vision for agentic AI for customer communication workflows. But it's also okay if you're kind of like, I don't know how I feel about this. Like 28% of companies that we got data from say they feel rushed by sales and marketing to adopt AI. 27% said that they feel like their technology capabilities, especially in their product or space, are kind of overstated, that there might be a false sense of security out there, that things are kind of being overhyped about how AI can just automatically enhance processes. So as you're thinking about AI, think about it in a thoughtful way. How can this actually drive real business value in terms of revenue, not just productivity, not just efficiency, but allow you to kind of adapt and compete as a business, but at the top of it, driving more revenue for your company. And so we ask folks, like, what is driving you to adopt AI for your customer communications? Again, better customer experience. It's leading the way. Lower operational costs, but a process efficiency, accelerated innovation. What is it allowing you to do to kind of move forward? Improve employee satisfaction, the ability to upsell, cross-sell. There's a lot of things that AI can do in CCM, and it looks like, from this slide, like, yes, I want to do all of those things. So again, it's kind of thinking about what your goal is for making any kind of AI investment and then tying it back to specific metrics. But it really kind of goes back to that last slide. Don't think about modernization so much as a technology upgrade, but it's allowing you to think about like what's next, what's possible, what's coming in the future. So the fundamentals of CCM to me really kind of come down to these three groups: orchestration, security, compliance, transparency, and then the tools, the capabilities, the user experience of the solutions themselves. The orchestration engine, I love that, the engine. I'm married to a car guy. We have a 1972 Citroën SM in my garage. It's a French car, but a Maserati engine. So maybe like Smart Path is like a Maserati engine, you know, for you guys. But the engine is what coordinates all of your systems. It helps you coordinate your channels. Maybe in the future it's coordinating your AI agents. Orchestration also really impacts that real-time decision making, moving from segments, more of like batch types of output, to like an audience of one, that true personalization. So that requires a lot of orchestration and integrations for that unified contextual experience. You can't have the audiences of one if you don't kind of understand the context of what they're asking or what you need to be giving to them. And that, again, gets back to, I think this is the third time I've said this on the slide, but getting the right message at the right time, that also kind of impacts trust. Security and compliance, look for solutions that offer that trust by design, embedded consent management, preference controls, accessibility. When we ask folks kind of like the build versus buy question, buy will win out, especially when you think about what skills your partner has in terms of this trust by design, building, understanding your business, your compliance, the things that you need that's required for your organization. Explainability and transparency, that's central to compliance, it's central to risk management. Centralized logic, content lineage, automated workflows, that helps keep your communications safe, so understanding the decisions that's happening along the way. And then audit-ready storage and logs, that helps you from a compliance standpoint, but it also helps your compliance teams. It helps them respond quickly if they have those questions or things that come up. And then user experience and line of business tool. The employee experience matters, productivity matters. When I showed you the slide about the volume amount going up, when we kind of dug into those numbers a little bit deeper, the functions or departments that had the greatest increase pointed to having more tools in the hands of line of business or knowledge workers to drive different types of output. So again, they know they know kind of their workflows better than anybody else. So put more tools in their hands. So you're improving process efficiency, but then you're also improving employee satisfaction because that allows you to let them be successful and kind of do what their job is. And I've already said the last point. Departments that saw communication volume grow the most had the tools that were designed for line of business as the driver. But also, as you put more tools in the hand of line of business, you take a lot of pressure off of IT as well. So the advantages of modern CCM. I was looking at this slide earlier, and I wasn't sure why I called it current challenges for companies, because as I thought about it more, this is kind of more about opportunities for companies, because we asked them, what improvements would you like to see in using your customer data that's influencing your communication process in the next 12 months. So number one, enable a seamless handoff between digital and human interactions. Again, that conversations that are happening between your customers and your frontline workers, that might trigger something that needs to happen in another channel. And so again, this seamless handoff, frictionless. You don't want to have bottlenecks there. Using AI to automate and recommend workflow steps, especially based off of the data itself. Modernizing dependent legacy systems so that you can use data more effectively. I think a lot of companies want to use their data, but they don't have modern systems and capabilities. And then that kind of prevents some of the other goals that you see on this slide, that seamless handoff, using AI, consistent communication across different channels or different departments. Bringing consistency to communication across different departments. The slide I showed earlier, there's so many departments and lines of business within your organization that have a hand in your CCM. Personalize and differentiate generated communications, that using your data to offer that very individual dynamic journey of what your customer kind of needs, the right time, the right communication at the right time. And then incorporating your privacy preferences and regulatory requirements into the process is number 6. So then we ask folks, what are you, when you're investing in new solutions for CCM, and you're wanting to modernize your technology, what are those investment drivers that you're looking for? Number 1 is reducing costs. So operational product costs. Again, a lot of companies I speak to have multiple solutions that they're using. Some of them are point solutions. Some of the solutions they've kind of picked up because maybe they've acquired a company. But reducing costs really is a part of their modernizing goals, consolidating systems, deploying to the cloud, and shifting more of that workflow into the hands of business users. So taking the pressure again off of IT, that can also kind of help you save some operational costs as well. Number 2 is better customer experience. Modern CCM helps you deliver fast, personalized, consistent interactions across channels. In fact, 3 of the things on this slide are really all about your customers, and that is how you drive revenue. So pleasing your customers, customer growth, customer retention. Modernizing is about your customer, but you kind of also think about it as this is the number 1 business value that we want to get out of something, which is increasing revenue. Boosting productivity, when you're centralizing communications, you're automating things that have previously been manual work, again, eliminating those bottlenecks, empowering those business users, empowering your teams to do more within a single platform. That is a reason that companies want to invest in modern CCM. Acquiring more customers, making that acquisition journey easier, not only for your customers, but maybe for your employees that are onboarding them. You want to increase your conversions, more personalized offers. Again, sometimes that has to do with integrating into other different types of systems. Hey, this person qualifies for this offer, and kind of driving those personalized experiences to drive more revenue. That also kind of helps you boost engagement. And then engaging the employee experience, simpler tools, faster content creation, more content reuse, intuitive user interfaces, the ability to use AI assistants no matter where they work, whether they are home office workers, whether they are in the office, whether they are frontline workers. They might be meeting face-to-face with your customer. And that's also been another reason to kind of deploy to the cloud when you're thinking about that. It's kind of like you have a disparate workforce that's out there. And then the higher customer retention. When your communication is clear, when it is personalized, when it's consistent across your channels, that can strengthen your trust, that reduces churn, that kind of the transparency. Those are the things that kind of help you retain your customers. So the benefits of modern SaaS investment has kind of evolved in the past few years, I would say. Not so much as the benefit of investing in something, but you also have the cost of missing out. What are you not able to do because you are not modernizing, you are not thinking about SaaS applications? When you're maintaining a legacy CCM system, you have technical debt. It really is inhibiting that modern customer experiences. It upholds your data and your channel silos. It consumes those scarce IT resources we were talking about, and it delays adoption of new capabilities like moving to the cloud, that omni-channel experience, and AI as well. So the survey stat that we have here, this wasn't specific to just CCM, but just asking organizations all over the world, what is really driving future spending within your IT investments that you're making? Number 1, preparing for greater use of AI in the business. In other questions, where we've asked it, AI investments are the most resilient from budget reductions right now. Companies want to launch new applications that require greater performance and productivity or capacity, and then sustaining competitiveness and business growth. So the top 3 there to me are really about opportunity. And so when you are not investing in solutions that allow you to have greater use of the AI of the business, new applications, or becoming more competitive, that is the cost of missing out. So a lot of times people don't make investments because of inertia. It's not like I'm moving to another application. It's like I'm actually just going to do nothing. If you're thinking about doing nothing, that can really be holding you back from the technology and what's kind of coming forward in the future. So this is my final point. Drinks are on the way, or taxes are on the way. So, CCM is strategic infrastructure. So of all the things that we've talked about, you have to think about you are communicating with your customer. Nothing can be more vital or important as that. So if your applications are enabling that, it is strategic for you to think about what investments that you're making. CCM is a long-term commitment. CCM is not new. It's been around for a really long time, and it will be around until companies no longer have customers, which will be never. So you have to think about when you're making these investments, your business will be changing. So you want to invest with a company that you can evolve and grow and change with, while making sure that you're protecting your data, compliance posture, and your brand. Remember, we talked about flexibility but not breaking something. You want to make these future-ready investments, but you don't want to kind of put your brand or your security posture at risk while you're doing it. CCM is dynamic. You don't have to like rip and replace. We're not necessarily talking about a platform replacement, but thinking about the continuous evolution, optimization, the improvements that you can make to your applications, but also the workflow, the way that you do business. So how you are communicating with your customers is a dynamic journey, but it can also be dynamic in how you want to talk to them like 6 months from now. So thinking about kind of your goals for the future, that evolution, the way that you're going to move, that's when you think about CCM as dynamic. CCM is in the cloud. CCM does have a very strong, heavy, large on-prem legacy, the nature of the business. But as you're thinking about maybe new technologies or investments, a cloud or API-first approach, that will kind of allow you to have that continuous evolution and improvements, allow you to have those interactive, dynamic, iterative conversations and communications with your customers. And to kind of wrap it up, CCM is CX, it's customer experience, it is customer engagement. So thinking about these investments that allow you to have experiences with your customer, to move away from the documents to experience type of mindset. And that means maybe considering, composable, flexible architectures, but again, you think about your CCM strategy as a whole and understanding the impact that it's having on your customer experience, your CSAT scores, your customer retention, and your revenue generation. So I'm done. I don't know. Thank you so much.